Welcome to the Flooring Podcast with Mike Harris, the show where we cover new construction, restoration, and everything to do with flooring in commercial construction. Now here's your host, Mike Harris.
Thank you, Producer Dave. Producer Dave is from Pod 617 Studios in Westwood, Massachusetts. We really appreciate Producer Dave's help and efforts in getting this podcast off the ground, because this is our inaugural podcast. Look out, Joe Rogan. Here comes Michael Harris. So this podcast, we're talking about flooring. Might not be the most exciting thing in the world, but to us, it is. We love flooring. We make our lives in flooring, and there's a lot to talk about. My inaugural guest today is Steven Hilton. Steve, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Mike.
You're very welcome. We're going to, I'm not going to say you're a guinea pig, Steve, but you're a guinea pig, okay?
I'm up for the task.
All right, we're going to get this thing going. Steve and I have been friends for 20 years, really working tightly together for the last 15. And in all my podcasts, what I want to do is talk a little personal about our guest. Steve, I know your wife, Casey. I've met her a bunch of times. Very nice woman. Steve has 3 children. Steve is a football coach. Steve grew up in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, and lives in Rehoboth right now. Steve's a city boy, which I like because I grew up in Jamaica Plain myself as a city boy. Steve, why don't you talk a little bit about yourself?
Well, I've been in the flooring industry now just about 22 years. Obviously, like you said, family man first. Work is very important to me. And just providing for my family. It's been great getting to know you over the past 20 years. You've definitely been one of my mentors.
I appreciate that. Sorry I had to retire. Well, yes. I didn't have to retire, but sorry I did retire.
But it's been great getting to know you, learning and growing up in the industry, not only just professionally, but as a human growing up. And you've definitely helped me along the way to become the man I am today.
Well, I really appreciate that, Steve, and you have helped me along the way, too. Some of the things I really appreciate and like about you is your ability to get close to people, your ability to be friendly with people, and your ability to work in situations that are tough, you know, and you do it with honesty, you do it with integrity, you tell the truth, which I don't know in this business, but probably in all business is a very difficult thing to do. Mm-hmm. Steve works for UCX Northeast, formerly the Belknap White Group. Steve, what does UCX stand for?
It stands for the Ultimate Customer Experience with an X.
The Ultimate Customer Experience. And you said you've been with this company for 20 years?
Yep, just 21 years.
Yeah, I know you got a nice little history working your way up into the through the company. Why don't you tell that story?
Well, I started this job in 2004 as a segue job while I was going to college, and started in the warehouse at the lowest level, pushing a broom. Worked my way up through that to driving their job site trucks, which was a lot of fun, unloading truckloads of wood every day at residences. As in the early 2000s was a big boom with new construction in residential. I left for a short period of time to go pursue my law enforcement career. Got a little bit sullied with it just because it was the age of cell phones everywhere. There was a professor of mine that said, years ago when I was in school, you could be the best cop for 21 years. All it takes is one minor mess up, in a moment's notice under duress, and your career's cooked. It kind of rang really tough to me, and I can only understand or can't comprehend how it is and how difficult it is being in law enforcement nowadays. So I went back, tail between my legs, and said, hey, can I have my job back? And they knew I had higher aspirations, so they put me at our pro shop as an assistant branch manager. Worked there for about a year and a half, and they gave me my own branch. And from there, I probably worked in Avon for about 2 years. And then all of a sudden, you came a knocking. It was a joint venture between UCX and Ardex. And they said, we want to get a guy out on the road. We want to train them and get them selling our product. And that was in 2010. Ever since then, I've never looked back. I didn't consider myself a salesman. Didn't know if I really wanted to do it. I liked people coming to me because they want to do business with me. Knocking on doors wasn't my strong suit. So it was I'm glad I did it, but the first 2.5 years was very difficult.
Well, you were and still are a very good student. You take direction very well. You don't have problems with criticism. You're a learner. You're smart, and one of the big attributes of you is you answer your phone. In this industry, and maybe it might be in a lot of industries, especially the younger generation, they don't answer the phone when it rings. They want to text. They want to email. As you know, in the flooring business, it's a right now business. Somebody's calling you because they have an issue. They're calling you because they want to, they want material now. And it is a fast track, fast moving business. And you picked it up and learned that very early in your career, which is a credit to you. The other nice thing I really like about you is you're very approachable, and you're nice. Being nice is a great attribute. People want to buy products from people they like. People don't buy products from people they don't like. It's no matter what they're selling. So it's you have a very good way about you. You have a very good way of handling people. And me being a little older than you, me being a city kid like you, a lot of times I felt that you handled people better than I could. Better than I did, and there's instances where that has been proven, and so your way of dealing with people is great, and it's I commend you for that.
Thank you.
Now, UCX, that's been in play for how long?
Just about 1.5 years, almost 2 years.
Okay, as your company is expanding, they seem to be, obviously changed their name. They're, have purchased some other companies. Why don't you quickly talk about that?
So it started in Rhode Island. I think it was the mid-'50s. Small group of flooring. They expanded with Armstrong Flooring. That was the only player basically in the market, and they slowly grew through acquisition. Smaller Armstrong distributors, and we got to about 1996, I believe it was. They bought into the upstate New York market, which expanded our portfolio with other products as well. At that point, I think they bought up a couple more tile distributors, and it was slowly growing when I got in the door in 2004. It's still a family-owned company. They really pride themselves on having long-term employees, myself included, with a lot of other people. And then they made a big break probably about 8 to 10 years ago, and went from Maine to Miami. That's what we like to call it. They bought a company called J.J. Haynes, and ever since then they haven't looked back. They're always in acquisition mode. If the timing's right, they're growing, and unfortunately in this business it seems to be there's a lot more shrinkage going on.
Yeah, no, I know, Ray Mancini, Bill Prescott, Dan Doyle very well, all very good guys. And again, people like to deal with nice people that are nice. Obviously, you need to be smart. You need to do the right thing. You need to be intelligent. But being a good person is critical in any business. Ray is a great guy. The president of the company, he's treated us very well over the years dealing with him. I know he's treated you very well. Mm-hmm. I think you're very lucky to be in a situation where you've been with a company for 20 years, which doesn't happen a lot anymore. And, you could potentially end your career there. And, that's old school thinking. And, it says wonders for the company that you work for. It really does. In those, so let's call it 15 years on the road, what really has changed or developed in the flooring business for you guys?
Well, we were in a weird time after the Great Recession of 2008. So when I got on the road in 2010, people were still at their desk trying to look busy. So when you have a new young person that they don't know coming through the door, along with the next 10 guys after me, you had to find a way to make yourself important to the customer. You struggle with it. You try to find your groove. But what I found was when people came to my branch when I was working there, what reps did I want to do more business with? Someone that I like doing business with, like you said. So I always want to treat the customers that I'm going after like I wanted to be treated, and just be accountable, be a good person, be personable. If you can have some laughs, I like to keep it light because this industry isn't necessarily fun some days. So if you can add a little bit of humor in, that's why I like to do it. So I really don't put on a salesman hat. I'm just me, and it's worked throughout life, never mind in the industry. And it really struck a chord probably about year 3 where I got an opportunity with a couple bigger contractors where, as you know, in some of these bigger firms, they ping pong back and forth, and project managers leave, salespeople leave. And once that started happening, I'd say 5 or 6 years in, they're like, why aren't you dealing with Steve? He's pretty easy to deal with. So it opened me up to other contractors that I wasn't necessarily familiar with or was getting stonewalled. Because you got to find out who is the gatekeeper, who is the person that can actually make a difference rather than just wasting your time talking about the Red Sox. That doesn't get it done. You have to bring information. And luckily, there was another contractor down towards that area of Mansfield that at the time gave me an opportunity to work on the nights and weekends with them and learn hands-on about polished concrete, which was an emerging market. Once I had that information from the field, I was starting to sell some of that equipment.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that really was what changed, because they went, he has some information. Now he's valuable. It's not just another guy walking through and saying, check out this chain set. Would you like to buy this? So that's what really was the game changer. So I embraced it. At that same time, you guys were opening doors for me, you and Barry, and give the kid a chance. And it all kind of, momentum was building, and now all of a sudden in 2013, the Seaport was really starting to get cooking. So we really capitalized on that. Other distributors were servicing those customers at the time. And again, over time, you change their buying habits, and that's when things went really well, once the momentum picked up.
Oh, that's really cool. The in those 15 years of being on the road, obviously you've seen you started off at the slowest point right after 2008. Business was very slow. We had to generate some momentum, get things going again. Like you said, the city of Boston, the Seaport area, started cranking. Cambridge started opening up a little bit more. Obviously, Cambridge was always good with Harvard and MIT being there, and they're always doing stuff, but the laboratory started to come into play a little bit, chemical companies, things like that. What has changed, or what has emerged that is maybe not there anymore when you started and is taking a back seat? Because trends come and go, materials come and go. Obviously we have, like you said, polishing has come into the game. Moisture mitigation has come into the game a little bit. And things of that nature. Talk about that a little bit.
So the big change was the green movement, which has obviously gotten bigger and bigger every year. Anything that used to stick a floor down, they pulled out of it. Solvents are no longer in the mix. Everything's water-based. Schedules for timing, they want to build a high-rise in 2 years. They don't want to wait 5 years for the concrete to dry. So that's when moisture mitigation started getting popular. Our base from the flooring contracting side didn't really used to do that. It was
that famous saying with adhesives, if it doesn't stink, it doesn't stick. Mm-hmm. So when they took the solvents out.
That's true. So a lot of these flooring companies were coming out of the Great Recession and trying to find a way to be more of a package dealer, if you will, to a general contractor. What I found was pretty interesting was, and not so good for some of the industry, was they used to sub that out to a proper prep guy that would shot blast, grind, whatever, and they'd perform the work of self-leveling, mitigation. Well, because they were coming out and everything was so tight, they started self-performing, which opened up a lot of opportunities for learning. And again, there's 5 other guys behind you willing to sell you something. But if we were hands-on and teaching people how to actually use these products, I think that's why it really jump-started everything. We were on job sites every morning. We were doing certifications at our branches. All that stuff was very important and was the groundwork for me getting to know the young guys that are in the field now, project managing over the years and stepping up over the years, and 15 years, getting meaningful relationships. Hey, I remember you. Yeah, you were over at that job down, on Com Ave 10 years ago. They may not have known me when they were in the field, but now all of a sudden they're in a project manager role, and they're like deer in headlights. It's like you're learning on the fly. So if you're there to support them and give them information to help them be successful, ultimately now that's grown into they're in a upper echelon, probably like a sales role or project management, whatever it may be. But if you're there to support people, obviously it goes hand in hand. They support you.
Yeah, bringing value is critical in this industry, because this industry is always changing. We might say we're in the, quote, cement industry, but cement is always changing. Technology is always changing. Things are always getting better. Like you said, when they took, I think it was 2000, what year was that where they took the solvents out? Yeah, it was, probably about 2005. They took the solvents out of the adhesives, and, everything had to be water-based. Well, solvent-based adhesives would stick anything down to anything. So there was no issues in floors. There was no moisture coming through floors and disrupting, the finished floors. And when that all started to happen, that was a big transition in the flooring market. Good for us, good for Ardex, good for UCX, because now we're selling multiple products in a situation where we wouldn't before. And again, we're bringing value. We're bringing, we're problem solvers. We're able to, go into a situation and recommend and solve a situation that, we were early on in the game, and like you said, bringing value. Education is key in this industry. It's probably key in most industries, but knowledge is power. The more knowledge we have, the better off we are. The more we can, pass on to our customers, and they're going to come looking for us for answers. And I think a lot of times, you and I are, we're the problem solvers. We're the answer guys. Call us up, see what we can do. Come out to the job site, take a look, get out our hammers, get out our chisels, beat the crap out of that floor, and see what we can come up with to, give them a solution to fix that floor. So that is great. One of the other things that has changed in the industry, again, over the last 15 years, especially in the city of Boston, they started building skyscrapers. We mentioned the Seaport, and the Seaport was a perfect example, is when, they started throwing up, apartments, condos, office buildings, different types of companies that are in the Seaport now. They're 20, 30 stories. And, years back, they stopped building with masonry and they went to exterior glass. There used to be a lot of stone, a lot of masonry. So they used to have, big, heavy steel. When the glass walls came in, it's a lot more decorative, a lot more today, a lot lighter. So what that brought in, they can use a lot less steel. And when they did that, phenomenon happened. It's called deflection. And, again, deflection was good for us. Deflection meaning the floor was all over the place, and they had to bring it up to level. I want you to talk a little bit about that and how thickness has really helped our business.
Well, generally speaking, on a mitigation system, you always wanted to do the mitigation primer and a self-leveling top coat at 1/4 of an inch, sometimes even 1/8 of an inch if you could get away with it, depending on the product. That did twofold, obviously a weeping system for the adhesive for the flooring, but also a protection of the mitigation system. So that changed dramatically when all these bellies started appearing, when they were pouring the concrete in place, and that dip in between beams. Now, instead of covering 1/4 of an inch, now you had to go back to the GC and say, Mr. GC, we just put a laser on the floor and we need 2.5 inches in the middle. And what does that mean? A lot of bags of self-leveling cement.
Correct. Yep.
So that was great for us in particular. Also, when it was coming off of the way they hang the doors in hallways and these multi-units, they have a strange way in the industry of hanging it off ceiling height. Well, when you put your door sills there, you always had to ramp up to them. And that's when products of that nature, ramping mortars, became huge. You just grade that off, that was another bullet in the chamber, if you will, for what we sold rather than just a bag of skim patch. So,
and let's talk about restoration too. I know a lot of times in restoration, you're going into an old building, and they might have, in the city of Boston, it could be 100 years old. It could be 150 years old. And a lot of times you might have multiple floors on there. Well, if you're going in there and you got a Class A office space going in there now, and you need to a lot of times remove all those old existing floors. The same correlation as a roofing system. You can't, you only can put so many layers, so you got to get back to the basics, get back to the base slab, and start from scratch and build that up too. Why don't you talk a little bit about that in the restoration game, how that has affected us?
It's been huge because you have to get down to virgin bare concrete. So if you have to peel off, I equate it to like your house. Back in the 50s these houses were built. What did they do in the 70s? Cover them with carpet, beautiful hardwood floors. Well, it reveals a hardwood floor. That's easy because it's only tack and padded to the edges. But when you rip off 100 years of 5 different layers of flooring, you don't know what's in there. Is there asbestos? Is there whatever? That wasn't our game, but we had to get down to bare concrete. Well, how do you fill that void? Well, you fill it with cement. And that's what, again, opened up another market of deep pour products that were different. They had aggregates added to them, or they were already inside of the integrally mixed at the mill. So that opened up another genre to us that was never there before.
And I see a lot of these contractors have, developed techniques and styles, have brought different types of preparation equipment throughout the years, grinders, shot blasters, different types of diamond wheels on all these machines as they've, the manufacturers have gotten better at this. And I always like to explain the sandwich aspect. I'd say, well, that floor is like an Italian sub. Well, you got cheese, you got bologna, you got gabagool in there, and they're all stuck together, but you never know which layer is going to blow, and if it comes apart, and nobody knows that, and nobody can guarantee that. So you're going to get down to that base concrete, get everything up, start again, have a beautiful, nice, clean floor, prepared properly with a certain profile, so you get a good grab, good bite on that concrete floor, and then you can come out with a really, really nice floor. Now, you talked about polishing. I know polishing is maybe one of the fastest growing markets in the flooring business?
I'd say it's cooled off a little bit, still busy, but now it's resinous coatings seem to be the next big thing.
Okay, resinous coatings. Well, let's get back to polishing quickly. Let's talk a little bit about polishing, because I know you sold polishing equipment in your early career, and that obviously the machinery is a big part of polishing, and I know you sell a lot of polished toppings, although we're polishing a lot of straight concrete. But talk about when we would get involved with a polished topping.
Polished toppings started to really take hold, I'd say about 10 years ago, maybe 12. And it was basically, you'd rip and strip the old floors down off of these repurposed, mill buildings or whatever. And you could polish it, but it looked like hell. I mean, it looked like a bomb went off in it when you're ripping it up and damaging it at the same time with jackhammers, chippers, whatever you have. So if you wanted that clean, monolithic look that was a consistent aggregate exposure, what do you have? Well, we had options that were toppings, but now polishable toppings started coming into it, where it would actually reveal, as you went through your progressions of diamonds, different looks, a salt and pepper look, a heavier aggregate look. Some architects love that heavier aggregate look on, say, an old Navy base, that you started grinding it and they had these big chunks of aggregate showing. Well, how could we mimic that in a laboratory and mill it and get it out to look in that same form or fashion? That's where, like Ardex came out with those different products along the way, and the architects ate it up. That was the reason that Toppings officially first took off, was basically renovating old buildings and going, do we want character with what we called character? It looked like crap, but some places liked character, where they had old VCT ghost lines, when they had different looks to it, when it was more like that industrial look was getting big with like the breweries and such like that, exposed beams up in the ceiling, down on the floor. You wanted that rough industrial look, like it wasn't clean and proper.
I think they call that industrial chic.
Yes, exactly.
When they're the old patch materials on there, they cut out a trench for the plumber, and concrete is 100 years different and different color, and you polish right over the top of that, and it's not the prettiest thing in the world, but it's chic.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
But now it seems like it's changed to we want one monolithic look. We want one aggregate exposure. So luckily there's products out there that have those looks. So that gets specified a lot more. Never mind that, construction is being so fast paced. Sometimes these concretes are poured in adverse weather. You have the cream that gets all messed up because it rained on for 2 weeks straight. So now you can't polish that anymore and it's going to look like junk. So you remove it, shave it, whatever you have to do. What do you have? Do you like that look, or do you want to go with a polished topping? Sometimes they're getting added on right from Jump Street, a new construction, because they dislike that look. They want it to be consistent. If it's maybe say an Old Navy or something like that they want one consistent look nationwide. That's also where Ardex in particular started getting these specs with the Bed Bath & Beyonds at the time. And no matter what it was, whatever area of the country, they were using that specific look.
Yeah, and I do remember in the early days of polished toppings, there is a learning curve, because a lot of guys were polishing concrete, and polishing concrete is different from polishing a concrete topping. And again, learning curve came into play because they might be polishing a concrete that's 60, 70, 30 years old compared to a topping that's 24 hours old. Huge difference. And the topping, at the time didn't have any aggregate, where obviously concrete has rock in it. So, and for contractors, it was a tough learning curve, because if you're doing one of these jobs once a month, once every 2 months, very difficult to learn, very difficult to improve on that. And like you said, nowadays, and probably over the last good 5 years, 6 years, they're doing a job a week. They've got it tuned in pretty good. You want the same crew, same people. They always like to have the guy on the machine that has a good feel. I know a lot of these remote control machines have come on the marketplace, but I know still a lot of guys that don't like to use a remote control because they don't have the feel. They want their hands on that machine. They want to feel that diamond cutting, how that machine vibrates, things of that nature to really get a good feel for that. You had mentioned epoxy. Epoxy's getting a lot more popular. I've been hearing that the data centers that are coming out because of this AI boom, those are typically epoxy. I know back in the COVID days when laboratories were
huge,
blossoming over Cambridge. Everybody's trying to find a cure for COVID. Laboratories were everywhere, and those are epoxy floors. You guys don't. You sell a little bit of epoxy, but I know that's a direct sell. Why don't you talk about epoxy a little bit?
So epoxy's a popular product in a lot of different things, like aircraft hangars. You have warehouses like Amazon going up. Maybe it's not necessarily polished concrete, maybe it's honed concrete, but if it's not polished concrete, they're going to resinous because it just holds up a little bit better over time. It's a little bit more money up front, but you don't have to repolish and rehone after maybe 5 years, 3 years, depending on if it's forklift traffic. It's all of what it's. If it's a floor that's going to get beat up, then epoxy is probably the way to go. Finished epoxy.
We see a lot of epoxy in bathrooms,
yes,
in showers and schools, hospitals, things of that nature too.
Yeah, I mean, you go into any bathroom at a restaurant, and it's usually not too pretty around those grout lines and the urinals and everything else. So
exactly, yeah.
So to make it more aesthetically pleasing, but also just easier to clean, they found that going into a gym like a Planet Fitness, all those Planet Fitnesses, the showers, everything is all epoxy. So it's kind of taken the way of former tile work is converted into epoxies and such.
Yeah, we haven't really talked much about tile and tile work. What is the hot tile in the marketplace today? I know, is it marble? Is it granite? Is it ceramic? Is it what's going on in the tile business?
We used to just call everything ceramic tile,
right,
but that kind of the through body colors and stuff. If you chipped the tile, it was still a red clay underneath it, so it looked like junk. So porcelain got huge. Larger format tile because of
larger format because of the grout joints.
The grout joints, the look of it, instead of polished concrete, maybe you had a panel, a 4x8 panel now that was getting put in and installed, which, again, it looks great to an architect. Now the guys have to learn. And how do you install a, 70-pound piece of tile? You know, if you look on it on paper, you go, wow, their labor should go really fast because they're just setting one tile and it's taking up a 4x8 space.
Yeah, how do you get it in the building?
How do you cut it? the jig, it's only, 5 millimeters thick.
Yeah.
So, again, I was always just a grocery guy. I'd go pick that information. I had a little bit of a background from being at the branches of dealing with tile guys, carpet guys, whatever, resilient guys. So I'd always ask questions and be a sponge and just try to figure things out. So now you go, oh, I'm not selling a jig for, big panels, but, go to this monolith thing because that's the one that everyone's using. That's knowledge that I was imparting on people. Oh, when it comes to diamonds, I sold diamonds for a short period of time. It wasn't really the genre. They were going direct. But tile, resinous, all these things, it's all information. The best ways, the practices of how to do it. Like, it all comes back to being a wealth of knowledge. That's how you, at least for myself and yourself, is being what my mom calls my father sometimes, a walking book of useless information. For most, but for flooring guys, it's everything.
Well, my granddaughter calls me as Google. Yeah. What are you, Mr. Google?
Yeah.
When I tell them something, they think you know everything.
Mm-hmm.
So they started calling me Google. And I don't know everything. I just know mostly everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
99%.
99%. Yeah. No, that's good. That's great. That's great. Where do you see yourself, say, in the next 10 years? I'm assuming you see yourself with this company because it's been a great company for you. You've been there with them for 20 years. Do you see your role changing, developing, or anything like that?
I am happy as a clam being on the ground level in the streets with the guys and gals. I like that sales-ish role. I don't even look at it as even sales. It's like calling on your friends. You check in on your friends. You call them and you're stuck in traffic. I mean, that's where the relationships are nurtured. They know what's going on at home. Oh, your kid's in baseball, your kid's in hockey. That stuff is what builds the relationship, and it's not just a salesman tack. It's like you really do care. I was just at a friend's daughter's senior night for soccer. I've known him since she was crawling in diapers.
Yeah.
So those type of things, those are the relationships that I nurture. There's transactional business, and that's fine. But when you really get past that layer and people let down their guard because there's a trust there that's been built, that's what really makes me happy. It sounds silly about going to work and being happy. That doesn't always correlate. But if I'm having a rough day, maybe I call so-and-so because he's always good for giving me a laugh and giving me a boost. That camaraderie is the closest thing that I can get to in sports now when I was growing up. You were part of a team. I like team sports. Still now I started coaching baseball, football now because it gives you the closest thing to actually being on the field is being part of that network. So I think the flooring industry being such a tight-knit group, we may not always get along, but the camaraderie there is always there. And then at the end of the day, you may have a disagreement, but they respect you because they honor that relationship, that back and forth.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It is a team game when you think about you got a big project, you got a general contractor, you got a flooring contractor, you got the salesman of the flooring contractor, now you have the installers for the flooring contractor, and it all has to come together and make that job happen, and typically in a tight time window, and it is a team game, meaning, you have to have product in that warehouse. You have to have product in their warehouse. You need to get material to them, Every day you get a call, somebody's looking for something today, and you got to jump through hoops to get them there. That's it is a situation. You are a problem solver, and you do it very well, and you do it. You don't want to say with a smile, but you're happy to do it because that's your role, your job. You're there is to help them in a situation because if you do, they're going to call you back. Mm-hmm. And that's, it's from a sales point of view, that's all you want. You want that call back and say, hey, I got this situation, something out of the blue you never heard of. Great, let's go take a look at it. Let's work together. Let's get it done. So it's a good situation. And I want to thank you for coming on to the inaugural Flooring Podcast with Michael Harris. I appreciate that, Stephen.
It's been a pleasure. I mean, we don't have another 2.5 hours to go. I was just getting going.
I think
I found my groove.
I think this went very well. I appreciate it. And like I said, I think you're a really solid person, a good guy. Somebody's nice to be with you. And I always said in the business world, if you want to go out and have a beer with that guy, he's going to be okay. So, want to go have a beer?
I'm down.
All right, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Learn from the best.
Yep.
Thanks to all our listeners. You can find the Flooring Podcast with Mike Harris on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you find your pods. We'll see you next time on the Flooring Podcast.